The dim fluorescent lights flickered in the empty parking lot of Anderson Dynamics as Emma Carter's worn-out Honda pulled into a vacant space. She glanced at the dashboard clock. 10:45 p.m., just in time for her night shift. Her heart pounded with a mixture of anxiety and relief as she looked in the rearview mirror at her 4-year-old son, Liam, who was clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur, half asleep in his car seat. "Mommy, is this where you clean?" Liam's sleepy voice broke the silence, his bright blue eyes meeting hers in the mirror. Emma forced a smile, trying to hide her worry. "Yes, sweetheart, this is where Mommy works to keep everything nice and clean. Tonight, you'll be my special helper, okay?" The boy's face lit up despite his tiredness, momentarily easing the guilt that had been gnawing at her since her babysitter called in sick just hours ago. She'd never brought Liam to work, before it was strictly against company policy, but with no family nearby and no other options, she was out of choices. Missing another shift could mean losing her job, and as a single mother, that wasn't a risk she could take. "I'll be super quiet, Mommy, promise," Liam whispered, hugging his dinosaur tighter. Emma's heart ached at his understanding. At 4 years old, he already seemed to grasp the weight of their situation. She stepped out of the car and helped him out, holding his small hand as they walked toward the towering glass building of Anderson Dynamics. The night security guard nodded at her familiar face, barely glancing at Liam as they slipped inside. The hum of industrial vacuums echoed faintly through the empty hallways of Anderson Dynamics as Emma guided Liam to a quiet corner of the break room. She set up a small station for him with his coloring book, crayons, and his beloved stuffed dinosaur. "Okay, Liam, you stay here and color, all right? Mommy will be right down the hall cleaning. If you need me, just call. But remember, stay quiet, okay?" Emma whispered, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Liam nodded enthusiastically. "I'll be super quiet, Mommy, like a ninja." Emma smiled, kissed his forehead, and hurried off to start her shift. She moved quickly, scrubbing desks and wiping down surfaces, her mind racing with worry. What if someone found out she had brought Liam? What if Ryan Anderson, the notoriously strict CEO, happened to show up? She shuddered at the thought. Ryan was known for his no-nonsense attitude and his sharp eye for detail. He rarely interacted with employees like her, but his presence was always felt in the pristine, high-tech offices of the company. Meanwhile, Liam, true to his word, stayed quiet for a while, coloring diligently. But as the minutes ticked by, his curiosity got the better of him. The break room was boring, and the hallways outside looked so big and shiny. Clutching his dinosaur, he tiptoed out of the room, his little feet padding softly on the polished floors. He wandered down the corridor, peeking into offices and marveling at the glowing computer screens. Then, as he turned a corner, he spotted a tall man in a sharp suit standing by a large window, his back to him. The man was speaking on the phone, his deep voice calm but commanding. Liam's eyes widened. He had never seen anyone like this man before. He looked like someone out of a superhero movie. Without hesitation, Liam ran up to the man and wrapped his small arms around his leg. "Daddy," he exclaimed, his voice echoing in the quiet hallway. Ryan Anderson froze mid-sentence, his phone still pressed to his ear. Slowly, he turned to look down at the small boy clinging to him. His piercing gray eyes softened in confusion as he took in the sight of the child. "I'll call you back," he muttered into the phone, ending the call abruptly. Kneeling down to Liam's level, Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Daddy," he repeated, his voice a mix of surprise and amusement. "I think you've got the wrong guy, kid." Liam tilted his head, studying Ryan's face intently. "You look like my daddy," he said matter-of-factly, holding up his dinosaur as if to prove his point. "See? Even Dino thinks so." Ryan couldn't help but chuckle, though he was still thoroughly confused. "Well, I'm not your daddy, but where's your mom? You shouldn't be wandering around here alone." Before Liam could answer, Emma came sprinting around the corner, her face pale with panic. "Liam," she gasped, scooping him up into her arms. "I told you to stay in the break room." Her eyes darted to Ryan, and her heart sank. Of all the people Liam could have run into, it had to be him, the CEO, the man who could fire her on the spot. I'm so sorry, Mr. Anderson, Emma stammered, clutching Liam tightly. He wasn't supposed to leave the room. It won't happen again, I promise. Ryan stood, his expression unreadable as he studied Emma. He recognized her vaguely, one of the cleaning staff, he thought, but there was something about her that caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she held her son protectively, or the way her voice trembled with both fear and determination. It's all right, Ryan said finally, his tone softer than Emma expected. Kids are curious, but why is he here? This isn't exactly a daycare. Emma's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I didn't have anyone to watch him tonight. My babysitter canceled last minute and I couldn't afford to miss my shift. I know it's against the rules, but I didn't have a choice. Ryan's gaze lingered on her for a moment, then shifted to Liam, who was now hiding his face in Emma's shoulder. What's your name, kid? He asked. Liam peeked out shyly. Liam, he mumbled. Ryan nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Well, Liam, it's nice to meet you, but next time try not to scare your mom like that, okay? Liam nodded solemnly and Ryan turned back to Emma. Get back to work. I won't say anything about this, for now, but be careful. Not everyone here will be as understanding. Emma exhaled, a shaky breath of relief. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I really appreciate it. As she carried Liam back to the break room, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Ryan's gaze had lingered on her just a little too long. And Ryan, as he returned to his office, found himself thinking about the boy who had called him Daddy, and the woman who seemed far more than just another employee. The rest of Emma's shift passed in a blur of nervous energy. She couldn't stop replaying the encounter with Ryan Anderson in her mind, his sharp gray eyes, the way he had looked at her and Liam. It was unsettling, but not in the way she expected. He hadn't been angry or dismissive. Instead, there had been a flicker of something else in his expression. Curiosity? Concern? She couldn't tell. By the time her shift ended, Liam was fast asleep in the break room, his dinosaur clutched tightly in his small hands. Emma carefully scooped him up, whispering a quiet thank you to the empty room for letting her get through the night without further incidents. But as she carried Liam out to the car, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time she'd cross paths with Ryan Anderson. The next morning, Ryan sat in his sleek, minimalist office, staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city skyline. His mind kept drifting back to the little boy who had called him Daddy, and the woman who had looked at him with equal parts fear and determination. He didn't know why he couldn't let it go. Maybe it was the boy's innocent mistake, or maybe it was the way Emma had clung to her son, like he was her entire world. Either way, he found himself opening the company's employee database and typing in her name, Emma Carter. Her profile popped up on the screen. Cleaning staff, part-time, hired 2 years ago. No emergency contacts listed, no spouse. Just a single mother trying to make ends meet. Ryan leaned back in his chair, frowning. He wasn't sure why he cared, but something about her situation didn't sit right with him. Later that day, Ryan called a meeting with his HR team. I want to implement an in-house childcare program, he announced, his tone leaving no room for debate. The HR manager blinked in surprise. A childcare program? Sir, that's a significant investment. Are you sure it's necessary? Ryan's gaze hardened. I'm not asking for opinions. I'm telling you to make it happen. Start with a survey to see how many employees would benefit from it. I want a proposal on my desk by the end of the week. The HR team nodded, scrambling to take notes. Ryan dismissed them with a wave of his hand, but as they filed out of the room, he couldn't help but wonder if this decision was purely professional, or if it had more to do with a certain cleaning staff member and her son. A few days later, Emma was finishing up her shift when she noticed a small envelope tucked into her locker. Her name was written on the front in neat, bold handwriting. Frowning, she opened it and pulled out a letter. Dear Ms. Carter, we are pleased to inform you that Anderson Dynamics is launching a new in-house childcare program for employees. As a valued member of our team, You are invited to participate in the pilot program free of charge. Please contact HR for more details. Emma stared at the letter, her heart racing. A childcare program? For free? It felt too good to be true. She clutched the letter tightly, her mind racing with questions. Who had approved this? Why now? And most importantly, what did it mean for her and Liam? The next time Emma saw Ryan, it was purely by accident. She was leaving the HR office after signing up for the childcare program when she nearly bumped into him in the hallway. "Mr. Anderson," she blurted, stepping back quickly. "I'm so sorry I didn't see you there." Ryan raised an eyebrow, his usual air of authority intact. "Miss Carter," he said smoothly, "I trust HR explained the new childcare program to you?" Emma nodded, clutching the folder of paperwork she had just received. "Yes, they did. I don't know how to thank you. This will make such a huge difference for me and Liam." Ryan's expression softened just slightly. "I'm glad to hear that. It's important to me that all employees have the support they need to do their jobs effectively." Emma hesitated, then said, "If I may ask, why now? I mean, this program, it's amazing, but it seems like such a sudden change." Ryan's lips curved into a faint smile. "Let's just say I had a little inspiration." Emma's cheeks flushed, and she looked down at the folder in her hands. "Well, thank you, really. It means the world to me." Ryan nodded, his gaze lingering on her for a moment before he turned and walked away. Emma watched him go, her heart pounding. She couldn't quite figure him out. Was he just being a good boss? Or was there something more to his sudden interest in her and Liam? Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam settled into a new routine. The childcare program was a lifesaver, allowing Emma to focus on her work without constantly worrying about Liam. And Liam, for his part, seemed to thrive in the new environment, making friends and talking endlessly about the cool toys at the daycare. But despite the positive changes, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Ryan was keeping an eye on her. She would catch glimpses of him in the hallways, his sharp gray eyes following her for just a moment too long. And then there were the small gestures, an extra break when she needed it, a new set of cleaning supplies delivered to her locker without explanation. It was as if he was quietly looking out for her, though he never said anything directly. One evening, as Emma was leaving work, she found Ryan waiting by the elevator. He was holding a small box, which he handed to her without a word. "What's this?" she asked, surprised. "Just something for Liam," he said casually. "I notice he likes dinosaurs." Emma opened the box to find a small, intricately detailed dinosaur figurine. Her heart swelled with emotion. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. Ryan shrugged, his expression unreadable. "It's nothing, just a little gift." But to Emma, it wasn't nothing. It was a reminder that, for reasons she couldn't quite understand, Ryan Anderson cared about her and her son. And as she walked to her car that night, Liam's new dinosaur tucked safely in her bag, she couldn't help but wonder if her life was about to change in ways she never expected. The weeks passed, and Emma found herself growing more comfortable in her new routine. The childcare program had been a blessing, and Liam was happier than ever. But what unsettled her most was Ryan Anderson. He wasn't just her boss anymore, he was becoming a presence in her life, whether she wanted him to be or not. The small gestures, the occasional conversations, the way he seemed to genuinely care about Liam. It all left her feeling confused and vulnerable. One evening, as Emma was finishing her shift, she noticed Ryan standing in the daycare center, watching Liam play with a group of other children. He was leaning against the doorframe, his usually stern expression softened into something almost unrecognizable. Emma hesitated, unsure whether to approach him, but before she could decide, Ryan turned and saw her. Ms. Carter," he said, straightening up. "I was just checking on the program. It seems to be going well." Emma nodded, her heart pounding. "Yes, it's been wonderful. Liam loves it here." Ryan glanced back at Liam, who was now showing off his dinosaur figurine to another child. "He's a good kid," he said quietly. "Smart, curious. Reminds me of someone I used to know." Emma frowned, confused by his tone. Someone you used to know? Ryan didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to face her fully, his gray eyes locking onto hers. Emma, he began, his voice unusually soft. Can I ask you something personal? Emma's stomach tightened. I guess so. How long have you been on your own? Raising Liam, I mean. The question caught her off guard. She hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Since he was born, she said finally. His father, he left before Liam was even born. It's just been the two of us ever since. Ryan's jaw tightened, and for a moment Emma thought she saw a flicker of anger in his eyes. But it wasn't directed at her. It was something else. Something deeper. I see, he said after a long pause. That must have been difficult. Emma shrugged, trying to keep her voice steady. It hasn't been easy, but Liam's worth it. He's my whole world. Ryan nodded, his expression unreadable. I can see that. There was a long, uncomfortable silence before Ryan finally spoke again. Emma, I need to tell you something. It's about Liam. Emma's heart stopped. What about Liam? Ryan hesitated, as if weighing his words carefully. I've been thinking about the night we met, when Liam called me Daddy. At first I thought it was just a mistake, but the more I've gotten to know him, the more I've started to wonder. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Wonder what? Ryan took a deep breath, his gaze steady. 5 years ago, I attended a conference in Chicago. There was a woman there, an artist. We spent one night together, and then I never saw her again. I didn't even know her last name. But when I look at Liam, I can't help but see the resemblance. Emma, is it possible that Liam is my son? The words hit Emma like a freight train. She stared at him, her mind racing. She remembered that night in Chicago all too well. She had been young, naive, and desperate for a break from the stress of her life. She had met a man, charming, confident, and completely out of her league. They had shared one night together, and then he was gone. She had never expected to see him again, let alone work for him. Ryan, she said finally, her voice trembling. I didn't know, I swear, I didn't know it was you. I didn't even know your name. Ryan's expression softened, but his eyes were still filled with questions. So it's true? Liam might be mine? Emma nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I think so. I didn't know how to find you, and when I found out I was pregnant, I decided to do it on my own. I didn't think you'd want anything to do with us. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. Emma, I had no idea. If I had known, I would have been there. For you. For him. Emma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to burden you. You're Ryan Anderson. You're a CEO. You have your own life. I didn't think we'd ever fit into it. Ryan stepped closer, his voice firm but gentle. Emma, you and Liam are not a burden. If he's my son, I want to be a part of his life. I want to be there for him and for you. Emma looked up at him, her heart torn. She had spent years building a life for herself and Liam, never expecting anyone to step in and help. But now, here was Ryan, offering her something she had never dared to hope for, a family. I don't know if I can trust you, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam is my whole world, Ryan. I can't let him get hurt. Ryan nodded, his expression serious. I understand, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm serious. But first, we need to know for sure. A paternity test. Emma hesitated, then nodded. Okay, a test. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Ryan arranged for the test, and Emma found herself torn between hope and fear. What if Liam really was Ryan's son? What would that mean for their future? And what if he wasn't? Would Ryan still care about them, or would he disappear from their lives forever? When the results finally came in, Emma sat in Ryan's office, clutching Liam's hand tightly. Ryan opened the envelope, his hand steady but his face tense. He read the results silently, then looked up at Emma, his eyes filled with emotion. "He's mine," Ryan said softly, his voice breaking. "Liam is my son." Emma's breath caught, and she looked down at Liam, who was playing with his dinosaur, blissfully unaware of the life-changing moment happening around him. Tears filled her eyes as she looked back at Ryan. "What now?" she whispered. Ryan reached across the desk, his hand covering hers. "Now, we figure this out. Together. I want to be a father to Liam, Emma. And I want to be there for you too, if you'll let me." Emma stared at him, her heart pounding. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could be a family. The days following the paternity test were a whirlwind of change for Emma and Liam. Ryan wasted no time stepping into his role as a father. He began spending more time with Liam, visiting the daycare during his breaks and even taking him out for ice cream after work. At first, Emma was hesitant, unsure of how to navigate this new dynamic. But as she watched Ryan with Liam, how patient he was, how genuinely he seemed to care, her walls began to crack. One Saturday afternoon, Ryan invited Emma and Liam to his home. It was the first time Emma had seen where he lived, and she couldn't help but feel out of place as she stepped into the sprawling modern mansion. The high ceilings, sleek furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city were a far cry from the small apartment she and Liam called home. "Wow, Mommy, look at this place," Liam exclaimed, running ahead to explore. His little dinosaur clutched in one hand, he darted from room to room, his laughter echoing through the house. Emma smiled nervously, glancing at Ryan. "This is a lot," she admitted. Ryan chuckled, his hands in his pockets. "It's just a house, Emma. What matters is who's in it." His words caught her off guard, and she looked away, unsure how to respond. Ryan led her to the kitchen, where he had prepared a simple lunch, sandwiches and fruit, nothing fancy. It was a small gesture, but it meant more to Emma than he realized. For the first time, she saw a side of Ryan that wasn't the powerful CEO or the man who had turned her life upside down. He was just Ryan, a man trying to connect with his son, and maybe with her. As the weeks turned into months, Emma and Ryan began to find a rhythm. Ryan was true to his word. He was there for Liam, showing up for daycare events, taking him to the park, and even helping him build a dinosaur-themed fort in Emma's living room. Liam adored him, and Emma couldn't deny how much easier her life had become with Ryan's support. But it wasn't just about Liam. Slowly, Emma found herself opening up to Ryan in ways she hadn't expected. They talked late into the night, sharing stories about their pasts, their fears, and their dreams. Ryan told her about his childhood, how he had grown up in a strict household where success was the only option. Emma shared her struggles as a single mother, the nights she had cried herself to sleep, wondering if she was doing enough for Liam. One evening, as they sat on Emma's small couch, watching Liam play with his dinosaurs on the floor, Ryan turned to her. "Emma," he said softly, "I know this hasn't been easy for you, letting me into your life, into Liam's life, but I want you to know I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for both of you. Oh." Emma's heart swelled, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe him. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "for everything." Ryan reached for her hand, his touch warm and steady. "You don't have to thank me. We're a team now." The turning point came one sunny afternoon when Ryan surprised Emma and Liam with a trip to the park. It was a simple outing, just the three of them, playing on the swings and chasing each other through the grass. But as Emma watched Ryan lift Liam onto his shoulders, both of them laughing uncontrollably, she realized something she hadn't dared to admit before. She was falling for him. It wasn't just about Liam anymore. Ryan had become a part of her life in a way she hadn't expected. He wasn't just a father to her son. He was someone she could rely on, someone who made her feel safe and valued. And as much as it scared her, she couldn't deny the feelings that had been growing in her heart. One evening, after Liam had fallen asleep, Ryan stayed behind to help Emma clean up. As they stood in the kitchen, washing dishes side by side, Ryan turned to her, his expression serious. "Emma," he said, his voice low, "I need to ask you something." She looked up at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Do you think we could ever be more than just co-parents? I know this has been a lot, and I don't want to rush you, but I care about you, about both of you, and I want to build something real with you. If you'll let me." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had been so focused on protecting Liam, on making sure he was happy and safe, that she hadn't allowed herself to think about what she wanted. But now, standing here with Ryan, she realized she wanted this. She wanted him. "I think," she began, her voice trembling, "I think we already are more than just co-parents." Ryan's face lit up with a smile, and before she could say anything else, he leaned in and kissed her. It was gentle and warm, filled with all the unspoken emotions they had both been holding back. When they pulled away, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. The story ended not with a grand declaration or a dramatic twist, but with something far more meaningful: a family. Ryan, Emma, and Liam began building a life together, one filled with love, laughter, and hope. It wasn't perfect. There were still challenges to face, still wounds to heal, but they faced them together, as a team. And for Emma, who had spent so many years feeling like she had to do everything on her own, that was more than enough. Thank you so much for watching this heartfelt story. If you enjoyed it and want to see more inspiring tales like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, Emma's Stories. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue sharing these meaningful stories with you. And hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you think about Emma and Ryan's journey? Let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned for more stories that touch your heart and remind you of the power of love, hope, and family. See you in the next video.